Salute, BookTube. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here. I got a tag video, the first tag of 2026. I was kindly tagged by Mike at Bibliophile Bookscape. Mike's a great guy. His channel started approximately, I think, the same time as mine, maybe even after mine. So he's a new booktuber, but he's a really good booktuber. You should go check him out. He did the why I read book tag, and he tagged me very graciously. Mike is not sure who originated this tag, who started it. I don't know either, but he did tag me, so I'm gonna do it. I don't know who originally did it, but I'll link to Mike's original video. You should check it out. You should check out his channel. He's just a good guy, just a good guy. So I don't want this video to go too long, so I'll go into the questions, the prompts right away, uh, and we'll see. So why I read original tag. Question number one: when did reading become important to you? Was it earlier in life, later in life, or something you came back to? Something I came back to. So my story is when I was young, very young, like elementary school. I was a reader. I got into reading. I enjoyed reading. Um, but then what happened was high school. So junior high, secondary school, what you Americans call junior high and high school, is when I had a big break from reading. I just stopped reading. Uh, why is a big long story, but basically it's just I don't know. I don't know. I just stopped reading in high school. I only read what I was assigned in school, and I didn't take that as seriously. I did well. I did well in English literature class in high school, but I wasn't a serious reader, not in my spare time. So there was a great big gap. And then when I went to university, I got back into reading. That the 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 foundations that were built when I was young in elementary school came back to me when I was in my early 20s, and I've been reading ever since. So it's something I did come back to, but after a significant gap. Uh, and that's when I was seriously reading. I don't think, I mean, elementary school wasn't very serious, but again, it was that foundation that allowed me to come back to reading. So I guess it's equally important. Anyway, question two: what does reading give you that nothing else does? Uh, knowledge, wisdom, peace, serenity, calmness, uh, like introspection, almost meditative, I guess. Reading is very solitary pursuit. So usually you're doing it in a quiet place. Usually you're alone. In that respect, it's also calming for me. Um, yeah, nothing else really gives me that. Again, when I said knowledge and wisdom for the first couple, I mostly read nonfiction, so I'm learning a lot when I'm reading. But yeah, I guess that answers the question. Number three, why do you still read as an adult? This one is funny as an adult because when I meet people, people start to get to know me. They start to find out that I'm a reader, or they come into my library here and they see all these books. And, oh, you're a reader, and then they'll say, oh, I was a reader once. When I was a kid, I used to read, but then I became an adult, and I'm past that now. They don't say that. They just say, when I was young, I used to read, but I've grown. What they're insinuating is, as they've grown up, they've stopped reading. Like reading was a childhood pursuit. So when I was young, I was reading, but I'm an adult now, and now serious life begins. And then they take out their phone and they start scrolling uncontrollably, and that's supposed to be like adulthood and maturity. Um, So I just find that funny. Why do you still read as an adult? What are adults supposed to do? What? Maybe I'm so into the book tube and just reading so much. I'm into it. Like I'm too invested in it, and I'm not seeing what's happening outside this booktube universe. But what are adults supposed to do? Like, what, if you're an adult, especially as you're getting older, like, what are you supposed to do other than read? I guess you could do exercise. That would be good for you. But I don't know. I'm blanking. Um, yeah, that's my answer. What else to do as an adult? Question number 4. What kind of reader are you right now? A mood reader, slow reader, binge reader, comfort reader, etc. Uh, right now, I'm a booktube reader. Uh, my reading now, we just started 2026. I made reading plans. It's completely been hijacked by booktube, my reading. I'm doing a bunch of reading. I have an announcement video a couple of videos back. You can probably check it out if you want to get more in depth about what I'm reading currently or what I plan to read, at least in early 2026. Well, I've already started my January 2026 reading. What I'm reading now, some of the books I'll show you. This one is again BookTube influence. This is The Phoenicians by Mark Woolmer. I'm reading for Historathon 2026. For those of you who don't know, Historathon is a year-long reading event where you're encouraged to read nonfiction history. And it's a year-long event, and the year is split up into 4 quarters, and each quarter is a historical period. So the first quarter is actually the year zero, the year, not zero, but the, the beginning of time until the year 500 AD or 500 CE. So the Phoenicians are an ancient culture that were based mostly in what is today Lebanon, um, and they were a great maritime power. And they colonized a big swath of the Mediterranean, North Africa, parts of Spain, France, Sicily, Greece. So I'm starting this still early, but enjoying it. Also for BookTube, I'm reading this by James McPherson, The Battle Cry of Freedom. Sorry about the glare. This is a Pulitzer Prize winning book from the 80s, but I'm reading this for Jeff. Jeff Reads History, I think is the name of his channel. He's got a book club called the Slow Burn Through History Book Club. So we're reading this big book, but we're reading it slowly. It might take us a month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months. Jeff has got an outline. There's a whole what's the app called? I forgot what the Discord. There's a whole Discord where we're discussing this book. Quite a few active history readers there, so I'm enjoying that one as well. And then I was encouraged by other booktubers to get into Russian lit. I had mentioned it just in passing, maybe I do. I was just thinking out loud in front of the camera saying, I want to get into Russian literature one day, someday. I was hoping to do it to make it 2026, but I wasn't sure because I had other reading projects. But other booktubers, especially Angelina at her channel, Books Do Things to Me, she was like, no, 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 no. And she sent me a book of Russian literature. This is Russian Magic Tales from Pushkin to Platonov. I don't know if you can see the cover there, but it's a penguin. It's one of these penguin classics, and she sent me a new copy all the way from Slovenia, so that was very nice of her. This is edited by Robert Chandler, who I think himself with his wife does a lot of the translations of these Russian tales that were they were oral traditions that were recorded into writing. Again, I just started, but also enjoying this. I'll talk about these books more probably at the end of the month, hopefully when I'm finished them. So yeah, that just gives you a taste. What was the question? It said, what kind of reader are you right now? I'm a booktube, made me do it, booktube, slave to booktube, basically. Question number 5. What makes a book worth finishing for you? What makes a book worth finishing for you? For this question, I think this is question number 5, and then question number 6 is what makes you stop reading a book? Those are connected. I don't stop reading a book. I finish any book I start. Usually 98% of the time. If I start a book, I'll finish it. Even if I don't like it, even if I'm not enjoying it, even if it's I try not to DNF a book. If I start a book, I try to finish it. There are exceptions. Very rarely, very, very rarely, I get a book which I thought was something but turned out to be something else. If it's very dry academic, because I read a lot of nonfiction and there is a lot of dry academic sort of books. If it's too academic, too much jargon, academic jargon, etc., then I'm not gonna waste my time. But that's very rare cases, and I do that much less now. Like I'm more careful on the books I pick and what I think is a good book, etc. So those questions: what makes a book worth finishing for you? For me, it's worth it to give the author his or her chance to make their argument. Usually, this in a nonfiction book, but also in fiction, you want to see the climax, and then you want to see how it ends. I think you owe it to the author, especially if you start a book and you get well into it. But then, what makes you stop finishing a book? Very rarely, in cases where it's just super like unintelligible because it's very dry or very jargony, but rare. And then question number 7 is, why do you choose books over other entertainment? That's another good question. Well, what are other entertainments? I mentioned that during high school I had stopped reading. I was a reader at elementary school. I stopped reading in my middle and high school. Then I got back to it in adulthood when I went to university. But that gap, that high school gap, a lot of the boys, my friends, guy friends who were my age or my class, a lot of them got into video games. Video gaming is big. It's big with boys and girls, but especially with boys, I think it's, at least that's what I know. And a lot of my friends got into video games. I was never a video gamer because I always had that reading mind. I had stopped reading, but I always, video games, I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, never did it for me. I never became a big video gamer. I never got into it. I never even owned one. So maybe because I wasn't very good at it, but I think that helped me to get back into reading. So video games never did it for me. I'm not knocking video games. They're very imaginative, they can be educational, and they are fun. I mean, I'm sure they're fun. They're very popular, so they must be fun, but I never got into it. Another form of entertainment is sports. Again, there's watching sports and there's playing sports. Um, um, Watching sports, again, when I was younger, I used to watch sports more than I do now for entertainment value. I watch much less sports now because I'm reading more. Maybe I'm getting older, my time is more constricted, is more valuable. So to watch a long football, or what you Americans call soccer game, or even an American football game or basketball or any sport, they're long. They're time consuming activities. So I'm watching much less sports than I used to. And then playing sports, again, I'm getting older, so I playing less sports. When I guess sports, actually playing sports is not a bad thing, and you can read and play sports. That's very much possible. It's not an either or scenario. Um, so you can do both. I'm just doing much less sports now that I'm older, and that means I'm reading more. And I'm even when I am playing sports, it's becoming more painful because I'm older. But so that's another form of entertainment. But what's another entertainment is movies and TV series. Will add that you're sort of watching on the screen. That one again. When I was younger, I used to watch more movies, watch more TV. I was never a biggest TV watcher, but again, with age, I've watched much less. But that's something I do want to get back to. I'd like to watch movies. A lot of the books we read, a lot of or become adapted to movies. A lot of the movies we watch are adaptations of books. So sometimes it's nice to I'm not knocking watching movies. although I again prefer to read. If I had the choice to read the book or watch the movie, ideally both, but because of time, I'd probably pick the book. But if I really like the book, I'll watch the movie. Um, but again, if you want to rate all of these entertainment, and there are others, but if there's other entertainments, again, reading will come number one for sure. Um, and then question number 8: what themes keep pulling you back? Uh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, what themes keep pulling you back? Keep pulling you back to reading, I think, is what the question is. I think this question is mostly for fiction readers. I'm not the biggest fiction reader. I'm a non-fiction reader. So for this, I'm trying to find themes. I'm trying to find a non-fiction-y type of answer to this. I'm gonna attempt to explain it. Why I or what's the question again? One more time. What themes keep pulling you back? So people say, well, why nonfiction? It can be repetitive. You can read the same history of the same place, of the same era over and over again. Isn't that a waste of time? No, it isn't, because different authors and they have different arguments to make about a specific era, or different hypotheses about different conclusions, basically. And then, of course, what makes history, which is my favorite genre, which makes it so fascinating and almost never ending, is that for every generation needs to reappraise history again to fit it into the present, if that makes any sense. So I'll give you an example. This is a theme that gets me going back and back. I have one theme here, or one subject matter, not really a theme, and that's Arabs, the Arab history. Again, I'm Arab. I am filming this in the United Arab Emirates, a small country in the Middle East where I live in. So these books are about the Arabs. This book is by Anthony Nutting, and it's called The Arabs. This is a very old copy. I think I have a better copy. I just couldn't find it. This was easier to find. It's almost falling apart, and it's almost falling apart because it's from the year 1964. So this is a book about Arabs in 1964. If you go on to the next book, this is by a very popular book. I'm actually going to mention this author twice in this video. This is Peter Mansfield's The Arabs. This is a new edition, but this book was originally, again, similar title, similar subject matter, different author, and this is from original copyright is from 1976. The Arabs by Peter Mansfield. And then there's this book. It's a history of the Arab peoples. This one goes more of a history rather than but the same subject. Again, we're talking about the Arabs, the Arab peoples. This is by Albert Hourani. This was a popular book, and this was published in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, first published 1991. So there's that one, Albert Hourani. This is the paperback edition I have from my university days. I've got the hardcover as well, but it's just easier to maneuver. And then, again, we have this by Eugene Rogan, The Arabs, A History. So we have this one as well. And then this one is from the first decade of the 2000s. Specifically, if I can turn the page, just when you need it to turn. 2009, originally published 2009, first published. Eugene Rogan's A History. So again, the same subject matter, just different authors and then different dates. And then finally, just to wrap up, this one is by Tim McIntyre Smith. This is it's called Arabs, and it's a 3,000-year history of peoples, tribes, and empires. Nice cover there with some golden kind of geometric pattern. This is like a naked hardcover. And then this one is recent, 2019, fairly recent. So again, this is from the 20 teens. This is from the 20 aughts or the early 2000s. This is from the 90s. Um, I'm sure I have a book about the same subject on the 80s. I just couldn't find one. This is from the 70s. And then this one is from the 60s. So when you say, what was the exact prompt? What themes keep pulling you back? Again, it's those themes, seeing how it's changed, how authors have changed their views or changed their, um, yeah, how has the literature changed? Again, these books are all about Arabs, but written by Western authors. So how has their perceptions of Arabs and the Arab world changed, let's say decade by decade? So that kind of pulls me back. I don't know. I hope I answered the prompt, but that's the best I could do for a nonfiction edition of this. And then question number 9: what books best represent why you read? This one took me some time. The why questions always take me time. I think about them because uh, they're great philosophical questions. Why? But what I did for this, again, I wanted to take a nonfiction. I wanted to make this a nonfiction edition, and I also, because I could think of many classics, and I could have discussed a classic, but I wanted here just to answer this one about what book best represents why you read. Not what you read, but why you read. So, and I wanted to localize it as well. Again, as I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, I'm based in the United Arab Emirates, which is a small country in the south of the Arabian or the Persian Gulf. And its history is not as well known as perhaps other much larger Middle Eastern countries, but I wanted to show you some books about this part of the world and then why I want to read. So I'll show you the books first and then I'll explain. This first book is by Sir Charles Belgrave and it's called The Pirate Coast. Unfortunately, this book is just black. The cover is just black, and this is an very old edition or old copy. Um, um, so the Pirate Coast. This isn't about the Caribbean. This is about the coast of what is now the United Arab Emirates. Is there a map here? I hope there's a map. Maybe with a map it'll be better explained. I'm not sure. Okay, I don't see a map. Anyway, so what happened was the British, this is as their empire was growing in the 18th and 19th century, discovered India and started to control India, and India became a especially after they lost the U.S. They lost the U.S. They lost in the American Revolution. They lost their control of the United States. India became their biggest asset, their biggest colonial asset. And so, as the British were coming to India, if you look at it again, you need a map. But between, let's say, Europe and India is the Middle East, and especially the Arabian Peninsula. And as the British ships were going back and forth between Britain and India, they would be attacked. They'd be attacked by what the British called pirates. They would these ships, these Arab ships would attack the British ships, steal whatever goods they had, sometimes ransom and kidnap the passengers as hostages for ransom, and just cause chaos on the high seas. And so the British, because of the number of pirate attacks, started to call this region or the coast of this country, the United Arab Emirates, they used to call it the Pirate Coast. That was the name they gave it. Now, Sir Charles Belgrave was very much part of the English British establishment. He was a administrator, a colonialist, a diplomat, who eventually was in control, pretty much in control of this region. He was the leading British government official in this region, almost like a de facto ruler. This is early 20th century, and he wrote this book about the Pirate Coast. Again, from a British perspective, And then to counter that, there's this book I have. This is by Sultan Muhammad al-Qasimi. It's called The Myth of Arab Piracy in the Gulf. A much nicer cover. Again, sorry about the glare. This is the attack on the British attack on the coast of what became the UAE early in the 19th century. So what does and Sultan al-Qasimi is actually is he's one of the rulers of the Emirates that make up the United Arab Emirates. So he's a bit biased, we can say. But what he's doing here is almost countering Sir Charles Belgrave. The UAE they don't like the British or anybody calling this part of the world the pirate coast. It has negative connotations. So this book is again the myth of Arabian piracy, and what Sultan al-Qasimi does in this book is counteract Charles Belgrave's argument, and the argument is that the piracy was a myth, that these sailors who were attacking British ships in the early 19th, mid 19th century weren't pirates. They were attacking a colonial invading power that controlled India, controlled most of at the zenith of the British Empire, they were in control of almost everything, and they were attacking this as a form of defense, not specifically as piracy. So again, this book counteracts this book, and it's an argument. This is the more British view, and then this is more of the Arabic view, the counter argument. And this was originally in Arabic but translated into English. I think the author wrote it both in Arabic and in English. So again, that was the question. I tried to. What was the question? The why? What books best represent why you read? That's why I like nonfiction. That's why I like history. You can take two different viewpoints, and then you can come up with your own conclusions. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who made a better argument? Almost like a judge in a courtroom, I guess. And then number 10, the last one is, has reading changed the way you see the world? Yes, definitely. So again, I am in the Middle East, but I do this in English. I read mostly in English, and that has allowed me to learn a lot about the Western world, about Europe, North America, etc. And then other parts of the world. And again, it helps me, as I mentioned, as I answered, I think previously, about the what does reading give you that nothing else does? It gives you that wisdom, that knowledge. You can become an interesting you can be the most interesting person in the room. Maybe at a dinner party or something, you can discuss, especially if you've got a captivated audience. So yeah, it's definitely changed. What was it exactly? The wording, how reading has changed the way you see the world. Definitely changed the way. I could go into more depth, into more ideological ways reading has changed me, but I'll spare you because this video is going long. But yeah, I want to wrap this up. I want to thank you if you've made it this far. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you, especially to Mike at Bibliophile Bookscape for tagging me. I really do appreciate it. Please do check out his version of this tag. It's not as long as mine, and it's definitely much more interesting. But with that, BookTube, I'll wrap this up. Salute.